Please confirm if my screen is visible and if my voice is audible. Can you please confirm in the chat box? Thank you. So let's continue then. So yesterday we did discuss about this one, default functions, and we do have a clear idea about what is default and how to declare default syntax of default function. All that we had discussed in the yesterday's session. So today what we do is we'll jump to the next topic, parameterized function. So what is parameterized function and how to declare parameterized function, syntax of parameterized function, all that let's discuss. Okay. So now let's see that now. So this is the parameterized function here. So it's simple as discussed yesterday. Parameterized function is something, a function with parameters. Yesterday, we had a clear idea. What is a function? What is a default function? Function without parameters is default, but we know the syntax, everything. Here also, it's almost same. We don't have big difference here. But the only thing is we add few parameters. This is also very important. As a whole, the concept of functions is very important. Right. So this is simple. What is a parameterized function? Means a function with parameters. That's what we call a parameterized function. That's all, friends. And the syntax look like this. So this def, this is, you know, right? This keyword must be there if you should declare any function. If it is default or if it is parameterized, so whatever it is, we must and should use this def keyword, and then function name, and then this variable list. Inside this brackets, we should declare this variables. You can see here all. It depends. These are called parameters. Whatever you declare here in this parenthesis, we call them as parameters, dear friends. I hope this is clear. Inside that, you can declare your statements. This is actually a comment. Doc string is a comment. After comments, if you want, you can add some statements. Excuse me. And then if you want, you can add return. Return is optional, of course. This is optional. If you want, you can add return. Else, this is optional. It depends on our need and necessity. Sometimes we need to return values from a function, and sometimes we don't need to return them. It all depends on our need and necessity. So this is the idea, friends. This is the idea about parameterized functions. This is syntax. So always, as usual, we should declare this keyword def, define, like it's saying like defining our definition of function or something like that, and then function name, and then variables, which how many ever you want in this parenthesis. And these are called parameters. These variables are also called as parameters. And then inside that you declare statement. This is just a comment. If you want, you can add comments, or you can exclude, or you can avoid this. It's up to us. And return is also optional. So we'll talk about all that one by one. As of now, immediately we are not going to talk about return, so we can remove this for now. But we can add it if we need it, or we can avoid it if we don't need that. It all depends on our program requirement. I hope this is clear. So that is the idea about the syntax and all this each part in that syntax here, friends. I hope you are clear with that, right? So now, and you can see here there is a small note here. The purpose of return statement. This will talk in detail. You can see return statement is to return a value from a function. That is what it does. But you can see, but that return statement is optional. It's not optional. Yeah, definitely. It depends on, again, we had a clear discussion on this. It depends on our requirement in the program. Sometimes we need to return values, sometimes we don't. It depends on the need and necessity of the logic and that function. That's all. And here, if you see, if you are not returning any value using return statement, then what function does? Just remember this. This is important. Then if it is not returning, then that function returns none. None means nothing. It's a kind of null value here in Python. None is a built-in literal, which means it doesn't return. If you don't return anything, none represents nothing. Wherever you see none, means it's nothing. If you don't want nothing, then you should put none there. It also acts as a filler. I hope this is clear. So this is the idea about a parameterized function. So how to declare the syntax, the parameters, and then the statements and the return. Return, we'll talk about all this with examples. Now what? So once we are clear with this, friends, about this function thing, we should understand how to call a function. That is step 2. Always once we declare a function, so the second step is always calling a function. Without calling function, we can't do anything, friends. That function never gets executed. So that is very important. So how to call a function? We call a function by using that function name here. If you see here, whatever the function name you have here, with the same name we call here. Here we declare parameters or variables, but here we pass values for those parameters through this function call, friends. So that is the idea. And here there are a couple of important things you need to remember. Number of parameters declared here should match with number of values here. That is important. Else there are other things we need to discuss. We'll talk about it. But in general, when you are declaring a function and when you are calling it, number of parameters you are declaring here, those must match with the number of values here or vice versa. This matching should happen, right? In any way, there are different ways in Python. Whatever the way you follow, the point is this has to be matching. That is important. Otherwise, we get an error, compilation error. See, got it, friends? So that is the idea. So just remember, anyhow, we'll discuss all this with examples, all pros and cons with examples. Now, what we do is we'll do few programs just to understand this parameterized functions. I hope you are clear with that. So I hope you got right. There are two things, very important things here while working with functions. Two steps. Step one is declaring a function. That is one thing. Step two, it's calling a function. So we have to follow these two, calling a function. We should follow these steps. This is very important. So let us do a small program and understand all this clearly with examples. Okay. So what we do, let's open our Python. Let's create another program. So, but this time our program is to demonstrate parameterized functions, Python file, and then a sum func. We'll take sum of two numbers with parameterized functions. Underscore parameterized. Okay. I just put param. Now what shall we do? First, let's always step one. We should define function before we call it. And we cannot call a function without declaring that function, without that function exist. So keep in mind, friends. So step one, declare a function. How simple. So we are problem statement is, what is the problem here? We are just finding the sum of two numbers using parameterized. So it is a sum of two numbers using parameterized function. Okay, parameterized function. So now what do you do right now? Simple, friends, just declare a function, starts with def and then some func. Okay, so maybe you can, generally in Python, we don't prefer this this kind of camel case or something. Usually functions will be in lowercase. That is the naming standard we follow in Python. Some func, right, underscore param. So we need to find sum of two numbers. It's so simple in Python, of course. If you want to declare functions, it's so simple in Python, friends. How this is simple? You don't need any data types here. You just need to declare how many parameters you want. Now we are finding sum of two numbers. So in that case, we just need two parameters, and and so we are passing two variables in this brackets here in this parenthesis. And these two parameters can be, this names can be anything. It is not like it should be AB. We just need two parameters to find sum of two numbers. So this can be AB or XY or V1 or V2. This variable names can be anything here. It's up to you. We can choose whatever variable names we want. That is the, so keep that in mind, friends. So it's up to the developer which variable name should be declared here. I hope this is clear. So this is how you should declare a function definition. Now inside that simple already known logic. So to find sum of two numbers, you can simply say C equal to A plus B, right? And then print it. What is that? Simply the sum of A. So one placeholder A and B is C. And then just apply format function and then you can pass A, B, C. So we are done with sum of two numbers. This simple it is. This is a parameterized function. I hope this is clear for all of you friends. So it's so simple, friends. So that is the idea. So I hope this is clear for all of you friends. What is that? We are declaring a parameterized function with what is it? Two parameters. And then here you can see the logic and then we are printing the result. That's all. This is the simple idea about this one, friends. Now, once this is declared, the second thing you are very clear. Without calling this function doesn't execute. So we should call this. How to call this now? Step one, we have declared a function. That is one thing. So we declare a function. So next one, step two, calling a function. So we are calling a function here, if you see. And how do you call function? With function name. Copy this. Simply what you should do, you should call with function name. Copy the function name and then put here. And in this function call, to this function call, you should declare parenthesis. And in this, we want to find sum of two numbers here in this function. If you should find sum of two numbers, we should pass two values to this while calling this one. So this is the caller. And from this caller, we should pass two values. So let's pass two values, 1, 2. That values can be anything. It's up to you. It's your choice. It can be 1, 2, 10, 10, 20, or it can be any numeric type. If you don't want sum of integers, you can pass decimals. You can pass so any other. Usually we have integers and decimals. You can pass any numeric type. So here I'm passing integers just to test our simple program parameterized functions. So this is function calling here. So what we are doing now, just we are calling this function, whatever we declared here, by passing these two values to this parameters 1 and 2. So that's all, friends. So what do we do right now? Let's print it. Let's run this now. Sorry, let's execute this program, right? Is this clear? Tell this, friends. So what we are doing in the caller is calling this function some param, and then at the same time, as this is a parameterized function, we are passing two values through this caller so that the first parameter is passed to first argument. The second parameter is passed to second argument. We can also call these as arguments or parameters. Anything is fine, friends. So these can be called as arguments or parameters or anything of your choice. Okay, friends. So any name is valid for these parameters. So this first parameter here, we are passing to the first argument. Second parameter, second argument. That's all, friends. A second value to the second argument. So this is how the mapping is done when you call this function. When you call this sum function param, the mapping of these values are mapped to these variables. And these are called actual arguments. In general, these are called actual arguments. And these are actually these are temporary arguments or temporary variables or dummy variables. So these parameters inside this function brackets, understand these things carefully, friends. Of course, these are simple things. We can also call them as dummy params or okay, formal arguments. We can call them as formal arguments. So whatever we are discussing here, this discussion is same for almost in all languages, friends. It's not just something specific to Python. And this concept is almost similar for 80% of this what we discuss is common for all languages, not just Python. For C, CPP, Java, C Sharp or anything, because the concept of function is almost same. But only thing here and there is a slight syntactical difference between one language to other language. That's all. And here, okay, let's get back to our discussion here. We are trying to have much more clear understanding about each and everything here. So what is here? So these parameters, we call them as what, friends? We call them as formal or dummy parameters. Okay. So we call them as formal or dummy. And these are actual because these will stay in the program until that program gets completed. But these will be deleted from program once the execution of program is completed. Just a quick idea. Difference between these values and these parameters is why these are called dummy, because once these parameters are alive, they exist in stack space until this function is executed. Once the execution of function is completed, these variables again they are removed from the stack frame, means they are dead. So they don't exist after the execution of this method. I'm trying to be very clear here, friends. Why these are called dummy or formal means these parameters exist as long as this function is executed. Once the execution of function is completed, these parameters are removed from stack frame. Means this parameters doesn't exist after executing this method. I think you should be very clear for that. Maybe we can add a point here just to give a clarity. So formal parameters are alive or exist till the function is executed. Okay, I mean we can see in the code. I'm talking about in the memory when they are loaded to memory means while that function is executed, then only they are loaded to memory and they becomes alive and they are there still until that function is executed. Once that is done, they are removed along with that method itself. Okay, it's a big topic. We'll talk about it little later, but just remember till the function is executed. Once the execution of function is complete, we can just put a comment here. I'm just giving you a clear idea why they are called formal. If somebody asks you this question, maybe you can answer this, friends. Okay, once the execution of function is completed, then the formal parameters, formal arguments are deleted from stack frame. What is the stack frame? Again, if you ask me a question, functions are executed from a stack frame. Keep in mind that is actually a memory area where functions gets executed. If you ask me a question, maybe just a quick answer. Functions are executed from a stack frame. This is very deeper understanding. Means we are trying to understand the whole situation of this stack frame. I hope this is clear. This just remember till this. Maybe if somebody you can answer many questions now, friends. What are those questions? So see, you can see there are so many things now you can answer. If somebody asks you about functions, what are actual arguments? Okay, what are so now I didn't still talk about actual. We are focusing on formal now. I'll come back to the actual now. What are actual arguments? Now you can be able to answer this. What are formal or dummy arguments? And if in case someone asks you why they were called dummy, now you can answer, friends. I hope this is clear. Next one, where functions or methods are executed. So in which memory area functions or methods are executed, where functions or methods are executed. Okay, so you can answer these many questions, friends. I hope you are clear. Apart from what is function, how to declare and how to call all that, right? And this is the clear idea. So fifth point is, I hope you got clarity now. What are formal or dummy? Dummy means simple. They are temporary variables which just exist until that function is executed. Simplifying the discussion. Then what are actual? Actual arguments will exist for a little more time than these formal arguments, because these are called from main space. These statements, other than these functions, these are included to your main method by default. I'll show you that, no problem. These are included to your main method. So that's why this has a little more life compared to this dummy variables. These exist for a longer period compared to this. Of course, these are also parameters. They are also present in some method that is nothing but main method. And these variables also get removed from stack frame. All these functions gets executed from stack. That is clear, right? I think I'm going little deep, friends, but this is useful discussion because when you know all this, it's easy for you to play with your code. Okay, that gives you more confidence. So that's the idea, friends. Got it now? So finally, what are actual means? These are something where we pass through function call, and these arguments will have a little more. These arguments are alive for a little more period. That's all, friends. So that is the idea. Then these dummy variables are formal variables. I hope are parameters. I hope that is clear. So that's why these are actual. These are formal, which have more which will live for more period in the stack frame. A quick question for you, friends. Please answer in the chat box if you understood this. Which variables live for longer period in a stack frame? Is it actual arguments or formal arguments? So question is, which variables exist for a longer period? I'll just write here for your clarity so that in a stack frame, maybe again, if I am writing stack means you are very clear now, because all these methods are executed from stack frame. So that's why now I think I got a right answer from both of you. You can see you gave me a very good answer. So that is actual itself. I hope Balaji and Shankar and Santoshi is also clear with this, right? So that is the idea. This is something really. Let me just see. Yeah, we are recording again. So this is something very useful discussion, friends. So, and this discussion is same for all different languages. So the formal, the actual, all this, and the program is so simple. Here you can see here. So this is the idea about parameterized functions. Hope this is clear, right? Now what we do, so we got clarity about all this stuff now. So this is the discussion points we are doing today. So what is that? Let me take one fresh notepad so that that will help us as a discussion notes for us, even though this whole doc is there. So what did we discuss so far on functions, friends? We got a clear idea about default functions. That is one thing. And second thing is a parameterized function and examples. Okay, parameterized. Sorry, there's a slight parameterized array function. And now, what else we are talking now? We had discussed about how to those use cases for each type. Now, another topic is So here we have a few examples here. So you can see here. What are those examples? So this is discussed sum of two numbers, all that. You can try a simple example here. Take a small use case and apply this use case using this parameterized functions. Okay, friends, this is the use case. Now you can rewrite this program with what? With the parameterized functions. So what is the project here? We have an input 10, 23, all this. So this is the input and we have to give the output like this. 10 is even number, 23 is odd number, 5 is odd number, even. Sorry, 5 is again odd number. Okay, here it should be odd number. Okay. And again, 4 is even number. Something like this. This output we should. This is a small thing. Just we are just checking, or this project is simply focusing on just checking if a number is even or odd. So can we, shall we do this with parameterized functions? Let us see. Let us create a program like this. The input should be like this. Output should be like this. Okay. And here in this case, because when you give input like this from the command prompt, we should do a direct, we should do a, what is that, friends? A dynamic initialization, right? So this is the problem. We should solve this problem. Let's do it now. So let's apply parameterized function. This is a use case we are building now. So let's do this now. Let's implement this use case with the parameterized functions. So this is the use case. Let's add a new program. Before that, can you please confirm if you are clear with this introduction to these functions, default and parameterized? Is that clear, friends? Can you please confirm in the chat box? So that we'll jump to the use case using parameterized functions. And then we'll talk about return statement after that. Can you please confirm if you are clear with this function topic discussion? Okay, thank you. I think we got some response. Right, let's create a small program now. Let's do a small use case with functions. It's a simple use case. I don't see any difficulty in that use case. So right click, new Python file. So it is a even odd use case, even underscore odd underscore use case. Let's try this. It's for me, it looks little interesting. So put comments here in your code. This is the problem. So the problem statement is this, friends. Let's do this with parameterized function. So then output should be like this. This is exactly, I need output like this. So if you can try, you can give a try from your side. Parallelly, I will also be solving this now. So the input should be exactly like this. It's not like you take a, what shall we say? We can do this in multiple ways. Let's try to solve in 2 to 3 ways so that it covers as multiple scenarios with functions. That is one. Second thing, it also helps us to cover multiple, to touch multiple topics. So what is that we do now? So for this problem, what we are going to do, we are taking multiple paths to implement this problem. Okay, one way is, what is that one way? So one way is, let me just give you different options. Approach one. So that it helps us to touch multiple things we have learned so far. Means it's an opportunity for us. So approach one, what is it? Using string and applying split. So that is scenario one. Using string, applying split. Split for what, friends? To break down this input, what we read from keyboard. So one is taking dynamic input. So let me add this, taking dynamic input and using string apply split on that input. So this is approach one. And after that, you have to iterate it. And then we have to validate if this is even or odd and print according to this. input should be given like this exactly, and output should be shown like this exactly. Present out should be presented like this exactly. So this is the problem statement. This is approach one. Approach to slight change. You can also change this input to a list of values, like same values. You can put it in a list instead of dynamic input. We can go with a list approach. Now, what you have to do? You have to iterate list, and then you have to validate it, and then you have to get the output. Either you can choose case one or case two. These are your input choices. Using a list as your input, or using dynamic initialization and then applying split. So you can see there is so much of coverage here on multiple things we have learned so far. We can apply all that, whatever we have discussed in our previous sessions. Let us do one by one now. Let us try to solve them in two ways. Approach one, let us apply string here. What do we do right now? So first thing is input equal to. Okay, right here we should apply this dynamic input function, right? And then what do we do? Enter values, right? What are those values we are expecting? Just you can ask to enter this. You can insist to enter these five values. Five, yes, right? So these five, we exactly need this five. This is step one. Maybe you can change this variable name a bit to not to have that confusion between that input method and this one. So this is step one. So we did this. Next one after this, once we read this input, so what happens? If you want, you can print it. Print. You can print this. Okay. All those values. That is fine. Now, if you should validate, do this validation. 10 is even, 23 is odd, 5 is odd number, 4 is even. First thing, from keyboard command prompt, what do we do? Our input is like this, friends. I'm trying to give you a clear idea how to trace or how to understand to implement a logic here. So it is something like this, friends. So what is it? It's 10, 23, 5. Now, when you input all these five values from keyboard, it is taken as a string. Now, on this string, what should we do? This whole five values plus this four commas means 9 characters are there in this string. Now, we have to split this. We have discussed while discussing string concept. What should we do now? We should split this five values by applying split method in string. That too, that split has to be applied with comma, so that all this is a string now, whatever we enter from keyboard, and that when we apply split, all this gets split and returned into a list. This split, what it does, friends, it will apply a split on the string, and that what are the values we split is written in the form of a list. So that's what happened here. So it will split and by comma and return what list here. All those split values are returned in a list. Now we should iterate this list, but these split value split whatever the values are split here, these are still strings. Those strings again you have to convert integers if you want to apply that condition. So we cannot do percentile on this string value. So what when you apply split will split all these values by comma, that is fine. But still, all these values that are added to this list are still what string type. So you should convert them to int and then you should apply condition. So after split, what convert split values? What is that we should do? I'm giving you, we are writing algorithm here step by step what we are doing into numeric, either int type or float type, whichever you want, into into numeric. Probably I am choosing this numeric to be int type, friends. Okay. For that, what do? We apply conversion function, simple conversion function. That's all int. That's it, friends. So let's apply these steps. And after that, what do? Once we convert it, we should apply a condition check. What is that we should do? We should apply a condition check. Right. This is the idea. right? We should validate if it is even or odd and print according to that. Let's do it now. Are you ready, friends? So these are the steps we should follow when you are solving this simple problem, whatever we are discussing here in approach one. Second one is much more straightforward than the first one. So first thing, we are applying input function, reading all values from keyboard. Let me just add a statement here. Reading values from, this is what doing here. This input function is doing. It is reading values from keyboard. Just adding the comment here, BOARD. Okay. Then after that, apply split something like, so this values equal to input one dot split. You can see here some split function. And here simply you can split because we know how we are going to provide input. Our input will be like this, comma separated. So you can pass comma to the split function, means we are asking split to split this input values by this comma. This is the separator we are using. So asking to split by comma here, right? That's what we are passing here. That is the step two. So what is step two here, friends? Split this, right? We are splitting it, splitting the input. So that is step two. Step three, once we split the input, till this we can print and see so that you get an idea what's happening till this. We can get some clear idea, right? Run this now. So you understand first two steps, how we provide the input. Once we split, what would be the result in values? What will be there in values? Let's observe that, friends. So right click and then run this and then enter values. So these values we should enter here. So what do we do? Simply we can say 10 comma 23 comma 5 comma. You don't press enter until you provide all this input in one line. You give this input in a single line. Again, don't press enter and try to give one by one. So this is a different scenario. 10 23 5 comma 4 comma 5. This is our input, friends. We are done. Enter. Now you can see here, this is the input, this is the output, right? So of course, sorry, there is we didn't print this values here. We are printing the same input again. Let's run it again, do it one more time so that we can see what is the input and after split, what values are there in this values variable. Okay, let's run this now again. Okay, again, let's see if we can copy and paste. So make it fast. Yeah, you can see here. See, this input is this whole line of input is a string, even though we have multiple values in this. If you see them as separate values, but for machine, this is just a single line of string and we applied split. And after applying split, you can see these are independent elements in this list now. So 10, 23, but still they are string values. So if you should do some validation, these strings should be converted to integers. But before that, first you should start iterating this. Now, what is the third step? Step three is iterate these values. So iterating values, because while iterating, we'll do the conversion one by one, iterating values. Why we are applying iteration? Because this is a collection, so it's easy for us to iterate collection. So that's what we are doing here, iterating values. So let's take for some I in this values column. Is that clear, friends? So we are iterating it. Now, every time we iterate, you can see this is our output. Usually our output looks like this. Every time we are iterating, we do two things here. So one value from this list is copied to this I. So what steps we perform here? We convert each value to integer and then validate it and then get the output according output like this. Whatever we are seeing in the output, we should print our result like this. If it is even, we should say 10 is even. If it is odd, we should say 10 is odd. This is a simple problem and we are solving. Again, we have to apply two more steps inside. What is that? Two more steps. Step one. Again, step five is What is step 4? Sorry, step 4 is convert each value, each string value into integer. This is step 4. Why not? If you ask me a question, why only integer, Manoram? Why not decimal or float? Then my answer is it's up to you. You can convert to any numeric type and apply your condition. For me, I am changing it to integer. So step 4, convert each string value to integer. It is so simple. Something like some val1 equal to, you can just add like this, equal to int of I. This will simply convert that string value to integer. Or otherwise, you can simply just say that int val equal to. So we have converted it to integer. After this, what is that you should do? Condition check. Again, you should do a conditions check. That is step 5. So step 5 is a condition check. It's so simple. We did this number of times in our previous sessions. Validating if it is even or odd. What do you do if that int value percentile 2 equal to 0? Then we have to print our output in this format. So is even. Right. So here print, we have to print that, put a placeholder and then is even. Okay, and close that. Put a placeholder is even and then dot format. You can simply choose that format method. Something. This is fine only, right? Yeah, this is fine. Yeah. What's happening? Why this is not giving us?
Close
Okay,
the
let me.
bracket of if condition.
Oh, yeah, that's why. Thank you. So now let's apply format here. Dot format. Yeah. So here put a placeholder is even. Yeah. And then how many values we should pass here? Just need to pass that one value which got converted. That's all. That is enough. That will be filling this placeholder. And of course, you got it right. Why? Usually this help should come automatically in this IDs. If not, something is missing. Like just I failed to close this braces. I mean bracket. Keep that in mind, friends. Of course, next one. Then what shall we do now? Again, same. Follow the same, but small changes here instead of a small text change. That's all. We don't need to do anything because if in this condition is false means it's an odd number. Then we are just printing that odd number. That's all. This is the use case we build now. Let's run this and see if we are getting expected output. Our input should be like this. This is case 1. In case 1, what is it? This should be the input and then this should be the output. Our output should be like this. Right. Second thing, case 2, that is simple. Already we are almost there. Okay. So when we apply split, it is giving almost a similar scenario. Okay, let's try to run this now, friends, and see the output. Right click and then run. And now give the same input as is because so that it's easy for us to pass values. Now press enter. Now you can see here 10 is even fine. So this is our input. Perfect. Maybe if you want, you can still add more anything to that if needed. This is step 1. Right. And then output 10 is even, 23 is odd, then 5 is odd, 4 is even, 5 is odd. Perfect. So we got a perfect output as expected by this. But still this is extra. They were not asking us this. So generally when you give us a solution, what they are asking this input, right? This input and this output. Exactly we have to show the same in the results. Okay. Just for an idea I'm giving you. In that case, don't print this. If we don't need to print this, while testing, you can add how many hour prints you want, how many hour debugging points you want, you can put it. But while finally submitting your results, make sure all that results are just clear and simple as people are asking in that different portals. Okay. So now run this now and see now, and then just copy this. Don't put additional spaces, right? In string, even that space is treated as a character. Now, this is perfect. You can see we have input and we have output. Maybe if you want add the text output, that is not a big issue. So this is the simple idea, friends. Hope you got clarity now. So, but finally, we try to solve this. This is fine. But where is the function here? Okay. So that function, that functionizing is not done here. So I completely focused on solving this. So let me convert this. Now what I am doing now, I try to make you understand this problem and solution. So what we do now, convert this to a, let's functionize this. I'm just giving you a simple this thing, functionize. I don't think this kind of, I mean, I'm just adding like this, friends. Don't think this might not be there. That grammar word. Now, what do we do right now? So function need to take an input. That input should be this one. So this has to go to function now, right? So what do we do first? Let's just change our code here. What is it now? So define a function. What is our function? Define even, odd. What is it? Underscore func. Maybe that func is not needed every time, friends. Only I'm just adding it just to make clear that this is a function, that's all. But in a real scenario, we don't need to add that func. Just a meaningful function name is good always. So we are just converting whatever we did to a function here. I'm just giving a simple, what shall we say, a post name, but don't, please ignore that. Converting to function here. So how many parameters we need? We just need one parameter, that to that input, or you can put that. So input, right? That is fine. Next, after that, what shall we do? See how simple, the same thing, how we can convert to a function. After that, this step two has to go into the function now. So what is that? Step two had gone to the function. See here how simple this is, friends. So that input, whatever that is there, we should take a parameter. And this is passed from function call. This we pass from a function call. That is fine. We get this from function call. After that, apply split. Simple. Then this you can remove from here. We are just see how we are simply changing this simple code to a function program. That's all, friends. Now you can remove this if you want. Right. So next, maybe let us keep it here. What I'll do is I don't want to make it clumsy. What we do, let's add a new file here. What is that file here? Even, odd function. Okay, let's just add this one by one here. First thing, just create a function def even underscore odd. See how we can write a parameterized function here, and then just add some input variable here, some input value, colon. And then now what shall we do? This has to, we should apply split on that. Already we solved that. So just copy and paste that steps here. So here, copy and paste that here. That is done. Next, after that, again iterating, copy this and paste here. That's all. See how simple it is. But the difference is what? Suppose if you need same even and odd somewhere, what we can do? I'll show you how. I'll show you how simple it is, how useful it is when we create a function. In how many ways we can test this function? I'll just try to show you now. So next, after we are done with creating function, next what, call this function. How to call it? Simple, friends. So calling, this is creating a function. Okay, to validate even or odd. even or odd here, friends. Next one after that. Next, calling a function. Let's apply calling. This is how we create a parameterized function, friends. See here, calling a function. So how do you call it? Simple. With this function name, copy and paste it here. To this, you should pass. What is that? You should pass this input. So what do you do right now? So copy this here. And before this function, first add those two steps. And after that, to this function call, pass this input. Whatever input you read from keyboard, you pass that to this function call. Excuse me, friends. So what? This is perfect program. Now run this. We get the same output as we did earlier. Now copy. You can see it is asking us to enter input and then enter. Now you can see here, right? So this is the idea. Got it, friends? So again, sometime later, what is the advantage with functions? Let us have a clear idea. Suppose if you want to find even or odd in a similar kind of with a similar kind of logic requirement, if you don't have function, again we have to write that code in some place. Right? You got my point, friends. But if you create in a function, you don't need to write this code again. This function just we define for one time. And wherever we need this kind of logic or requirement, wherever we have this requirement, we simply call that function. That's all. Sorry, not that. This one. Call that function. And we don't need to write this code again and again. And this, what is the advantage with this, friends? This simplifies our approach. This reduces number of lines of code in the program. Is that clear, friends? So that is the advantage when we create functions in a program. It reduces length of code and also you have a better readability. Now you see this code here like this. You see this code here in the functions. Definitely functions have a better readability than writing code like this. I'm just trying to give you comparison side by side so that you get a clear idea how important functions are to us. That's all, friends. Hope this is clear for you now. So we have converted the same function to what, friends? To parameterized, same code to parameterized function here. And another important thing. What is that another important thing? In some cases, we are printing it directly. We need to return values instead of printing our results here. For this one, it is okay. It is fine. This is a simple problem statement. We try to solve it and provide the output as expected. This is fine. In some scenarios, functions should return results. That is important. The core idea of creating functions is one, modularization. That is one thing. Two, once that logic is implemented, that function should return that result wherever we need that. So that is very important thing. So we'll talk about return now. But before going to return, I would like to check your uh, this thing, friends. Are you clear with this? Can you please confirm in the chat box? So about creating parameterized functions, about default functions, and then this use cases. Is that clear now? Please confirm in the chat box. No, this is not clear, friends. Any confusion or you are clear with this? Can you please confirm in the chat? Thank you. Okay, let's do one more. Let's talk about another important use case. So that is return concept. Return keyword in functions or returning in functions. Let's write like this, returning in functions. Okay, let's do that. To do this, there are simple things. One thing, this is something which we need to do in functions. Let's create a new program. This I'm closing here, friends. I hope you don't have any questions on these use cases we did here. Okay, so let me close them. If you have any questions, we can discuss. No problem. We'll discuss after this class. Close our tabs and then right click new and then Python file, and then what, friends? Just create return use case. So now let's take a small problem to discuss clearly about returning a result. So what do we take? Let's take a small use case here. So which example? We'll take a use case like this. Problem statement is, so now we are applying a return use case. To understand that return use case, we are creating a small problem statement. For that, we are finding sum of first n numbers. That is the problem. So we have numbers like this. Let's take a small list, like sum of maybe instead of first n numbers, let's change this problem statement. Sum of all values in a list. Let's apply some collection so that we get familiar with those in a list, friends. So this is the list of numbers. You can take anything of your choice. It's not like this. Take some 4 or 5 values because the concept is same for 5 or 10 or 100 or 1000 or a lakh. So some 1, 6, 7, anything is fine for some 5. Now this is the simple problem. Now what is that? This is the input. Input should is directly given in the program. And output is what? What is the output we should get? Simple. Output is simply, it should be like this. This sum is something like colon. We should get some sum. That's all. Some result based on your values in the list. Something should be there. Your result here. So this is the idea, friends. I hope this is clear. So this is the input. This is the output. But this time, even though we are implementing a function, a parameterized function, we are introducing a written concept here. So what is that we are doing? We are introducing a written scenario, in our code. So this is what we are doing here, friends. Okay. So what is this written now? It's so simple. Let me write here. Let's use this notepad now. Return is simple, friends. Return is a keyword. So generally, what is this return means? It's a simple keyword. The purpose of return, as name says, it is used to return a value from a keyword. Sorry, from a function. I'm sorry, from a function. So that's what return keyword does in a function. And this is there in all languages, C, C++, Java, C Sharp. Okay, in all other languages as well. So what return does here? Return simply return a value from a function. I hope this is clear, friends. This is the idea. Next one. After this, how do you, where should we declare return keyword? Where should we place return keyword? So that is another question. So usually we add return keyword at the end of function. Right? Maybe, so where should we add it? Once all that execution is completed, before that control jump back to the caller, we declare that return keyword. So that when you say return, that control immediately will be returned back to the caller. Once return is executed, control don't stay there. So once this return keyword gets executed, control doesn't stay in that called function or that function. Immediately it is returned back to the caller. So point is, where should we place return keyword? Usually return is placed at the end of your function. Is placed at the end of the function. Maybe you can ask me a question. Why not in the middle, Manora? Or why not in the beginning? Point is simple. If once that return is executed, control doesn't stay there. Then it goes back to the caller. Means some from the function where you are calling. So then there is no point of executing other statements in the code. I'll show you with examples, but I'm just giving a heads up here. That's all, friends. Okay. So the point is simple. Just note this here. That's all, friends. Usually return is placed what? It is placed at the end of the function or at the bottom of the function. That's all. As a last statement, usually as a last statement. End of function, usually at what? As a last statement. But there is a conditional returns, that is a different thing. That can be placed anywhere. But in general, this is what we should follow when handling functions. I hope this is clear. Now let's do a small program for this. The input we can give in the program. So directly you take some list here, list of values, and then you can copy and paste same values here if needed, or you can choose some other values. Now, right, this is the input. Let it be like that. Next one, create a definition. So what is this definition? Sum of values. Okay. Or sum of list. You can put whatever you want. It's up to us. So here you can give some list here as input. Okay. So that's all, friends. Some list values I put here. That is my parameter. I'm passing a list as a parameter here, not individual values. Right. So passing a list as parameter. Now what do you do right now? Once that list is here, that is passed as right, passed to this function. Right. What should we do? We should iterate that list and do the sum of numbers. So for that, what we should do first, we should declare a sum variable here and set it to 0 or something like put result equal to 0. And then what do you do right now? Iterate this, assume that this is a list here. And if it is a list, we know very well, we should iterate it. So what do we do now? So we are iterating a list, iterating list values. Let us be more clear here. List values. So on top of this, just you can add. Okay, what is that you can add? Function. You can clearly mention these comments like this, friends. Function to find sum of list values. So that's it. Now what do you do right now? Let's apply iterating for I in what we do, this list values colon. Now we should apply logic because once we iterate this list. So every time this for loop iterates, one value from list is copied to this variable until that whole elements from the list are copied or read. So that's what this loop does. We know this very well. We are discussing this from the very beginning. Now, once that is done, we should apply logic. So adding values. How do you add? We should apply a simple logic sum that result we have already set it to 0 equal to result. What is that we should do? We have to apply same thing. Result equal to result plus I. This is what we should do. And this gives us sum of this, whatever we are doing here. This will perform addition of all these values, iteration by iteration. So this is done here. But usually our habit is printing this result in the function itself. That's what we did so far. So what do? We say print of something like, so we can just add like this. The result, this is what we do generally. The result is placeholder dot format and then we just pass result here, right? This is what we are doing generally, right, friends? But let it be there. We will just simplify it. Okay. Now what we do, we will fine tune that program little after this. Let it be like that. Then okay, this is how we should find some of all values from a list. Fine, and we are printing then and there itself. Let it be there. We will tune it again. Now call this function. So here these variables are declared as global here. See here, out of function. How out of function means global, and they can be accessed throughout this file, right? That is one thing. And here, if you see here, these are local. These variables are accessed only within that function. Remember these terminologies, friends. These are global, something outside function and inside a file. These variables are accessible throughout the file. Global variables. This is local. These parameters with function are local variables, and their visibility is only that function, not the file or not anything else. And this variable can be seen only in this function. This variable is visible only inside this. Keep in mind, friends. So this is called local. I'll talk about it. We again come back to that topic. Different types of variables: global variables, local variables, instance variables, static variables, all that. But remember for now. So maybe let's add a comment. What is this? So these are all global variables. So that is one thing. And here, this variable is what? This is a local variable. So list values here is a local variable. Keep in mind. Local means I clearly gave the definition, friends. Something declared with function or inside function. These are all local, and local variables are visible only in that function. I hope this is clear. Next, let's call this function sum of values. And to this, what is that we want, friends? We wish to pass this list so that we get the sum. This is fine. But for now, we don't have any returning scenario. We are just creating a parameterized function and passing a list and then doing some processing and then printing that result there. Let's run this first. Then we will fine tune it, fine tune that for return. Okay. So this is the basic this thing of our program, basic version of our program. Okay. Let's run this now. Run this on result referenced before assignment. Okay. What's happening? Okay, I'll do one thing. So you just see this small change I am doing is I am keeping this as a local variable. So global means every time this just changed again it's set to 0. What we do is this has to be kept inside the function, not outside function, not as a global variable. List can be global, that is fine. But let us put this inside function. Why? Every time loop iterates, what happens? So of course, this doesn't have any impact, but using this as a local should be fine, friends. Let's run this now. Control Z and run this. Now you can see this. This is working fine. I hope this is clear now. So this is a small change we did. We brought that global into the local thing, right? Otherwise, what happens every time when we are executing? I think there is a small issue with that. So put this as a local, and you can see we don't have any error. But if you put it as a global, let us just try to observe that. What's happening here? We are just only trying to introspect it. Unbound variable. It is clearly saying if you put here, this word, this is not the right approach. It's saying something. So local variable result referenced before assignment. So problem is here this is treated as local, but same variable is global. So somewhere it is expecting an assignment to this. So that is the issue. Of course, we can have a global variable like this. But what is it is asking? It is trying to look for an assignment to this local variable. So this has to be assigned internally. So this is expecting something like this. Now we can have two different globals, two different variables. This is a local, this is a global. I believe now this issue will be resolved now. Right, now let's do this. You can see now. So this is why it's throwing not with the global variable. Okay, so please ignore that. We don't need to bring that into the function. But it's all the issue for the interpreter is this doesn't have any assignment in the pre-assignment in the function. So it's asking for that unbound local variable. It's saying you have a local variable, but you didn't assign, you didn't set any you didn't set any pre-value to that, pre-initialization to that. That's what it is saying. So when we do that, then that problem is solved. But this global variable can be there as is. I will talk more on these things. Maybe if you ask me, we have two variables with same names. Don't we have any problem? We don't have a problem. Here, when you declare a local variable here, the priority is for local variable inside a function, not for a global variable. Right? We'll talk about it again. But this is the idea. But not why to get confused here. I'm removing this so that let's have just one variable. Let's focus on this and come back to that again. All these scenarios again. Hope this is clear now. Now, when we run this, we are getting some of all these numbers and logic. I think you should be familiar. Now, but this is not the right way of handling these kind of logics. So this kind, when you implement a program like this, the important thing we have to do in a real programming is we should not print results like this here. Okay, what should we do? These kind of utility functions. These are called utility. Utility means they implement some logic and have some result there. These kind of utility functions should return results. We should not print them there in the function itself. They should return results. So to return result, what should we do? Simply in this function, you just add return and then that variable, friends. That's enough. When you say return result, you don't need to add return type like in C, C++, Java, or C# in Python. That is implicit. So you just need to add return result here, friends. Then this is actual way of implementing functions if they were returning some results, if they have some kind of result in them. So we just added a return keyword and after that the value which has all those addition result that we are passing after that. This what will happen now? When we add this return statement, this will return this result to the caller, this one. Now we have to preserve this result. Once this function is returning result, that we have to catch that result or capture that result or preserve that result. So what do you do? Here, sum of, we can just add a variable here simply, sum of some list equal to. This is the variable I'm choosing. Right? So what happens now? First control comes here and then it jumps to the function and then implements the logic. And then what? Once this return statement is executed, it returns that result. And that result, whatever is returned from the function, is assigned to this local, again, this to this variable here in the with the caller. I hope this is clear now. Right. This is the idea, friends. So now what shall we do here? We should print this sum of list, not result. Result is something local to the function. And this is something which holds your result that is returned by this function. This caller has to be assigned to some variable if the function is returning some value. I hope this is clear, friends. Right, this is what we should do. So this is returning a value from a function. What did we do? When we implement some logic in a function, we should return that to the caller. In that case, we add this return keyword along with the variable or value which we should return. And once we are doing that, this caller should be assigned to some variable in the program here. So some meaningful variable you can create and assign this caller to that variable. And that result returned by this caller will be assigned to this, that you can print it like this. Now run this program. Let's run this, friends. You can see we get the same result. We don't see any difference, but the approach changed completely. You can see here. We have completely changed the approach. This is actual professional way of implementing functions. I hope this is clear, friends. So that is the idea about return concept in functions. Suppose there is a question again. Now, Is this clear, friends? I hope all of you should be fine with all this. Can you please confirm in the chat box if you are clear with this? Is return key concept clear, friends? Okay. If you are clear with return, friends, we'll just discuss one more con here. We had discussed all the pros now, and I hope you are very clear with return. The syntax of return is like this. So if you ask me a syntax for return, after doing program, we are just taking the syntax for a quick clarity here. So syntax like will be like this: return some variable name. This is one syntax, or we can also return value directly, constant directly. If not, return a value, something like this. Right? Is this clear, friends? This is the a value from a function. Okay, and in Python we don't have this concept of return type like in C, C++, Java, or C Sharp. So we can skip that discussion because that is not needed in Python. So we had a lot of coverage on this again so far. So in this few minutes, I mean in this short span of time, we discussed many more things after this introducing return scenario. What is that? We understood what is this. We had came across new terminologies in functions. So one is a global variable thing about the variable scenarios in functions. So what is it? One scenario is understand what is a global variable and then what is a local variable. So we came across these things again in this discussion, right? I hope you are clear with these things. Okay. Apart from that, what else we introduced? Return is clear for you. So we introduced return again. This is a new learning for us, and also we got clarity like when should we should return we should return a value from a function. I hope this should be fine for all of you, friends. So that is one more. But there is another scenario for you. Suppose there is this question is there, very interesting question. Suppose this is a question. Suppose a function is not returning a value. You are returning value and assigning to some variable like this. This is pretty fine. But you are not returning result from the function. Suppose you are just printing this, but you are not returning. Suppose see here. So in the same program, what you are doing, you are not returning, but you are just simply printing a result then and there itself. And okay, this is fine. There is nothing wrong with this. But what at line 22, what we are doing, we are assigning the color to a variable, this result variable. In this case, the function is not returning, but we are assigning this color to some variable here. Then what would be there in this variable? If it is C, C++, Java, and C Sharp, we will have a for sure compilation error. But in Python, do we have any such error is the question. Sometimes we need to do validation if that function is returning results or not. That is important, friends. We need to check if this function is really returning result, then we should check and then we should process for next steps. So here in this case, what is it? What is the function is not, suppose a function is not returning a result. Then what happens? That is the question here. In this case, let's run this. No problem. There is nothing harm in testing your code. Okay. Right click and test this, friends. And you can see the result is fine. No problem. But at the bottom, you can see here at the bottom, this one, the sum of list, maybe to be more clear, I'm changing this. Let's run this again. See this now? Result wise here, this is fine. But here, sum of list is having none here. You can see here. Means what? This is another important observation. In Python, if a function is not returning any value, and if you try to assign it to some variable, still it returns none. What it assigns? None. I hope this is clear. Remember this, friends. So the simple way to validate this kind of cases is you can validate if this is none, then we should skip it. If this is not none, then we should process it. Even this kind of validation is needed in code in certain cases. I hope this is clear. So this is the point we need to add. Even though if a function doesn't return any value, still what it returns, even though if we are not returning any value, that none is not written by us. Is we are not returning any value. So what is it from a function? Still what happens? Still a function returns none by default. So this is not done by us. This is done by the interpreter itself. Okay, this is done by interpreter. So keep this point in mind, friends. So this is one more important observation in functions. Clear? Let's run this again one more time. You can see here. Just to show you that the importance of this, we had this, just had this use case. But actual thing is what, friends? Actual one is this one. What is it? This is the actual one. This is how we have to implement a function. But you can do a small validation. See here, just add a small validation. Sometimes some developer might implement a function, but in 99.9% cases, no developer will just leave it as is. He will definitely add that return scenario. But for a cross validation, if you want, if you can just say if sum of list equal to some none, okay, then you can just say some pass or something, or you can say sum of list not equal to, you can say something. Then you can do some kind of validation. Let's just do one thing. That printing thing, you don't do it directly. Take that printing decision only after doing validation. If it is not none, then print it. If it is none, just leave it. Maybe you can pass some information to the logging thing. So you can say else. We can just add some information to the logger. We'll talk about logging again. We'll talk about how to implement logging scenarios in Python in the upcoming sessions. But for now, this might go to the logger. You can pass on that message, like here you can simply give it as result is none, or function is not maybe colon function not returning value. So something like this. You can just give some message to the log file so that developer can validate and can check it and correct if anything is missing. So this is simple analysis. So, so the advantage with this kind of approach is still you can have a better validation, because when that none is there, this is how you can add more to fine tune code here. Now run this now, friends. Now see, we are doing the same. Suppose let's apply this scenario now, the previous one. So let this be as is. Copy this. I'm just showing you how to be more, how to have more useful code while doing some implementing some scenario. Here, just add result now. This time you can see here, right? So this is handling all different cases pretty well. Now run this now. Are we returning any value from this function? No. Then what? We are adding a proper validation now. So what is it? If it is not none, we are asking to print, else we are passing some log message here. You can see of course, right now we didn't implement logging, but just giving you an idea. So right click and then print it. You can see here result is coming from function is fine, but from main method, you can see here, all this code goes inside main. I'll show you that. So we can see the result is none, function not returning value. It's clearly saying this itself a clear idea to us. I hope you are clear with this, friends. So that's all about different things what we need to understand in functions. We'll come up with more use cases in the tomorrow session. Right. So we'll talk about again different types of variables. All that we'll cover. Not tomorrow, of course, next week session. And we'll try to close functions topic next week. because we are not just only covering the concept, but we are trying to get having use cases and they are applying all the different use cases. Is this clear for you, friends? Can you please confirm in the chat box if it is clear or any confusion? So that's the idea. Again, there are so many questions we can answer now. So what is that? Does a function, if a function doesn't return value, then what it returns? That is one question. Then the validation thing you can see here. One more scenario we have covered is this one, right? So these are all things we discussed in today's session, apart from parameterized function. So we also had a discussion on parameterized function with the beautiful use cases. Parameterized, right? That's it, fun friends. So this is for today. We'll stop here. Right? Any more questions we can discuss? Else we'll connect back next week, friends. Right? This code thing, if you want, I can copy and paste for you. Okay, friends, have a nice day. Thank you, Shankar. So this code I am pasting here, you can take it. This one. And also, I think we can stop recording. This is not needed.